Shavua Tov. Fire is central in this week's Parsha, but I want to talk about a different fire, the one that we just did. As the Sabbath concludes, we make Havdala, and we have there a multi-wicked candle. That fire is very significant. We got that from the first human, Adam, because after his sin on Friday and the Shabbos, which glowed for him, he then encountered Saturday night, and it was dark and it was scary. So anybody who's afraid of the dark, don't worry, you're in good company. So Adam at that point found that when you rub sticks together, you can create fire, which gives light and gives warmth. Very significant. What's it got to do with the Parsha? So the Parsha starts with the sacrifices dedicating the tabernacle in the wilderness. And I want to focus on two specifically, because the high priest Aharon, he brings a calf as a sin offering, and then there is a sin offering brought on behalf of the entire people, which is a goat. Why those two things? Well, the rabbis in the Midrash go right to it. The calf for Aaron is to atone for his sin of having been involved with the golden calf. The goat on behalf of the children of Israel is to atone for their sin of the sale of Joseph, after which they dipped his cloak in the blood of a goat and sent it to their father. They atone therefore with a goat, which raises a very significant question. We have a rule in Judaism, especially relating to the temple, that the prosecution can never become the defense. Ein kategor naaseh sanegor. For this reason, the high priest is not allowed to go into the Holy of Holies on Yom Kippur wearing his golden garments, because the other half of that calf that Aaron was involved with was golden, and gold reminds of the sin. Therefore, it cannot be used to achieve atonement. It will be defeating the purpose. It's like someone coming over to a person saying, "Please forgive me for the time I smacked you in the face and gave you a black eye and did all of these terrible things." The more he reminds the other person, the less the person is going to be inclined to forgive him. Now, if that's the case, though, if the rule is one may not have the prosecution become the defense, well, then how can the high priest wear golden garments anywhere, even outside of the Holy of Holies? And how can Aaron be bringing a calf as his forgiveness, as his sin offering? If anything, it should be something else that doesn't remind of the sin of the golden calf. How can the atonement for the children of Israel be a goat? Let it be something else. Let it be a cow. Because they're bringing the prosecution as a defense, and that seems to be against the rules. So the answer is very simple, and we need to understand it. That rule applies only in the Holy of Holies, only in the Kodesh HaKodeshim. So the Kohen Gadol can't go in with the gold on Yom Kippur to the Holy of Holies, but outside that rule doesn't apply. And I would suggest not only doesn't it apply, but the opposite applies. That one specifically should bring the prosecution as the defense, that there is an important spiritual reason to do so. Aaron himself was reluctant, according to Chazal, to become the high priest. After all, he did feel guilt about that golden calf episode. And Moses said to him specifically because of that episode, "You are the most worthy to be the high priest. You were together with the people, so therefore you are the one to lift them up." And it could be that taking this calf with which he sinned to be the atonement is a way of taking the thing that was the problem and showing, now I am in control, now I have fixed my ways and I can bring this calf and this will be holy. Same with the goat. That's a way to understand it, and we will see that indeed this is the case. Now, the temple, or the place, the location of the temple, was called different things by the patriarchs. I saw in an article by an American rabbi, and I forget who, I apologize, who makes this comment, that Abraham referred to the temple as a mountain. He was taken to the mountain that I will show you. God told him that that's where he's going to sacrifice Isaac, and that's, of course, the location of the temple, Mount Moriah. So for him, it's a mountain. For Isaac, it's a field, as the Torah says, that Isaac went out into the field in the evening to talk, to meditate, to pray. So the field is also a description of the temple. And Yaakov, he referred to it as a house, that if God brings him back, this place will be a Beit Elokim, a house for God. So we have Abraham calling it a mountain. For Isaac it's called a field, and for Jacob it is a house. There is a great difference between these things. These things can be, the first two, can be obstacles to proper observance of Judaism. Because if Judaism is a mountain, excuse me, meaning it's a high and dangerous climb with cliffs and lions and tigers and bears, oh my, then a person can be discouraged and can say, I can't make it up that mountain and I'm not even going to try. On the other hand, if it's a field, it's too easy. You could just walk right in, and then a person tends to cheapen and not take the spirituality, the commandments, the faith with the seriousness that it deserves, and they will come to violate sins on that level. So therefore, those two have a opposite tension. It's either too hard or it's too easy. And Yaakov strikes the balance by building a house in a field. So the building is the element of difficulty. You require effort to build a house, but it's in the field, so it is a place that people can get to. I'd like to go a step further and suggest that the sins that we're talking about, the golden calf and the sale of Joseph, relate to the topography, the mountain and the field. The sin of the golden calf took place at a mountain, Mount Sinai. And it's interesting that the animal that they chose to sin with was a calf, which is a field animal, not a mountain animal. And the same thing in reverse. The sin of the sale of Joseph took place in a field, and the animal that they involved was a goat, which is a mountain animal. I think, and those things, those animals, the goat and the calf, become the atonement. Why? Because you need to mix a little bit of mountain with your field in order to stave off sin and achieve balance, and you need to mix a little bit of field with your mountain to do the same thing. I was just thinking the following, that in a field, a person looks horizontally. It's flat, and they see the other people there as competitors, people whom they are to defeat, to vanquish, to be superior to, and not to allow them to be superior to us. And this is exactly where the sin of the sale of Joseph came from envy, and that was appropriate for a field. The atonement for that is to raise our gaze, to not look horizontally at competition at others, but rather to look upwards, towards the mountain, towards God, and realize that we are all the creatures of God, and therefore our other human beings are actually fellow travelers rather than competition. We need the element of the mountain. The atonement, therefore, is a goat to bring the mountain into the field. And the other problem was that when a person is unable to feel confident that they can climb the mountain of faith, so then they slip into idolatry, which is the easy way out. That's the element of the field. And they search for a calf, which is a field animal. And so therefore the solution to that, the solution to the mountain, is indeed to bring an element of field. What element of field? Our fellow Jews, our fellow travelers. That yes, for me alone to climb that mountain, it may be impossible. But if I am together with all of Am Yisrael, as the Mishnah says, get for yourself a rabbi, purchase for yourself a friend. Purchase, it's that important. Get those friends, get the people together. They are not competition, they are support. And then all together we can indeed climb that mountain, bring the element of field, of society, into the mountain with an upward glance and an upward aspiration, and then you won't be sinning with a golden calf. So taking those things that were the cause of the sin, and now sanctifying them as a sin offering to atone, is bringing balance back. Now balance in these issues is relating to what we do. Because when you're out in the field and you're up on the mountain, that's the place in the world when you're not at home. That's where you do your work and your actions. In those places, you must use the prosecution. You must use the challenges in order to create the good fire. Because Adam, after the Sabbath, was in darkness, and that he had friction, he had challenge, and only by meeting that challenge with an equal and opposite friction and an ever-increasing force was he able to create the light that lit his soul and that can light all of our souls. Taking the thing that specifically is our obstacle and softening it and rubbing it and smoothing it until all of a sudden the flame of victory in our soul bursts out. That is the metaphor of the Havdala ceremony. That's out there in the world. But there is a place when we are just our own pure selves. And that's the Holy of Holies. That is the house on the Shabbat. Shabbat is also like a house. As a matter of fact, I believe it's in Emor, where the Torah talks about the festivals. It talks about them in a number of places. But it introduces the festivals using the word moed, a festival. And in that introduction, it immediately states the Sabbath. Now, the Sabbath is not a festival. The festivals are Passover, Sukkot, Shavuot, and so forth. Not the Sabbath. But are they? But is it a festival? Says Rabbi Soloveitchik, it is. The word moed does not just mean holiday. It means a meeting, a connection, a meeting place. That for the 3 pilgrimage festivals, we meet God in his house in Yerushalayim. But every Shabbat is also a festival, a meeting place where God meets us in our own homes. This is where we are at our essence, and our essence is pure, our essence is good, our essence is devoted. Our actions may not always be, but our essence is. And therefore, in the Holy of Holies, that is the place where we are just our essence. There is no room for gold. There is just for the simplicity of Aaron being there with the incense in all purity and in presence. And so too it is on the Sabbath, where the Sabbath there is no fire. There is just dwelling and feeling the glow of the divine presence visiting us in our homes. But after the Sabbath is over, when it's time to go out and work, the first order of work that we must have is to take the things that challenge us most spiritually and push back against them until the friction creates a wonderful flame of light and of warmth. Shavua Tov.